Now we'll have the second presentation by Dr. Vedhanayagam on Devadasi system. Dr. teaches New Testament at Gurukul Lutheran Theological College and Research Institute, Chennai. She serves as Deputy Theological Advisor in Evangelical Mission and Solidarity, Germany, bringing an international perspective to her work. Dr. Vedhanayagam is the Secretary of the Association of Theologically Trained Women in India, Tamil Nadu region, an organization that advocates for women's leadership in theology and the church. Her scholarship bridges biblical studies and social justice with a particular focus on caste, dignity, and the role of faith communities in reform movements. I'd like to invite Dr. Vethakani Vedhanayagam to speak on the topic Devadasi system and Reformation.
Good evening to all of you, and thank you for your kind words. Greetings to all of those who joined today. So I will be sharing with you all today on the concern of the Devadasi system, particularly from the focuses of opposition, rescue, and rehabilitation. What was the faith response of the followers of Jesus Christ in Indian history thus far, who documented, opposed, and worked to end the temple dedication of girls? So these are the few things I would like to share with you all. As we all know, the Devadasi system has a meaning of Deva, God, and Dasi, female servant. So it is literally female servants of God, female servant of God. So this Devadasi system was a religious and social institution in South Asia, particularly in India, in which women were dedicated to Hindu temples and deities for life. And the system traced back to 6th, 7th, even before those centuries. When we look back to the history of this particular Devadasi system, we get a chronology of 3 layers. The first one from till the 7th century, probably 5th to 7th century. Then 8th to 18th century, that period was known as middle or classical period of this system. And then 17th to 19th century, from 19th to 20th century. These are the 3 to 4 layers of this particular Devadasi system in Indian history. So when we see few lines of these historical elements, in the ancient period, actually, it was started as dedicating girl children to God or goddesses. They were temple dancers, musicians performing ritual worships, Nitya Seva, the long, eternal Seva. And they were the custodians of classical dances like Odissi and Kuchipudi. They were also participants in royal courts and religious ceremonies. This was the ancient period performance of these Devadasi, the girls in the Devadasi system. Then when we move to classical or medieval period from 8th to 16th century, we have this era as cultural peak of the system, where these Devadasi were enjoying considerable social prestige, economic independence, because they were given lands and income by the kings and temples. They were called as Nitya Sumangali, eternally married. They will never get into the life of widowhood. So they were performing music, dance, poetry, all those kinds. But there was a decline from this classical cultural peak of historical line from the 17th century till 19th century. So the system started to deteriorate because of various factors. The very primary factor was the collapse was happening with the royal patronage culture in Indian land due to predominantly Islamic conquerors invading into land and followed by British colonialism. So because of that period, temples started losing their land and wealth, so they could not support them economically. So consequently, Devadasis become dependent on the private patrons like zamindars, merchants, people who were wealthy. So we would say that this was the institutional shift happened in the history from religious, artistic realm to the independent, wealthy peoples patronizing these women. This was the period these Devadasi women, girls in the Deva system started into more of sexual exploitation than before. Then we moved to the colonial period from 19th to 20th century until the 21st century. Maybe this period of colonial era brought both missionary criticism, also the Indian social reform movements, marketing various evil systems, including this system. So, like in those periods, we got few personalities. Predominantly, they worked towards this particular against this system. Would like to make one line or one concern on the nexus between this system and caste and class and gender. These are the intersectionality of this particular system, which we have to underline when we talk about this Devadasi system. It was not primarily a religious, pious-oriented culture. It was a caste-based. Also, because of the poverty, also the women bodies were taken for granted. So, this intersectionality of caste, class, and gender, we need to look into. So, the caste was one of the most powerful forces which was shaping like who become Devadasi and how they should be treated and what should happen to the institution over that period. All those things were streamlined by the caste system in Indian context. So it was far from being a caste neutral religious practice. The Devadasi system was deeply embedded in and ultimately weaponized by India's caste system. But however, how the girls from lower caste, that is a question we need to ask, because the history says in between in the middle age, people from the middle caste system, girls from middle caste system were forced into the system. But later on, the Dalit girls were forced into the system. How? So to understand that, maybe few lines I would like to share with you. Dalits and Devadasi system, how it is related. As a system degraded in the 18th to 20th century, the royal patronizing system degrading in 20th century to the ground level, it became increasingly concentrated among Dalit and lower caste communities. Extreme poverty, social powerlessness, and the lack of alternatives, which left Dalit families most vulnerable to pressurize these girls from these communities to get into the dedication of this culture. So this is a way we get into this particular Dalit community coming into this system. So there were the history also showcasing us that this system was established powerfully because there was a kind of inculturation happened with in and through the system. Wherever the system went into different regions, it different colors and different names, because it was going into different cultures with the different local religious systems, local deities. So, but the outcome was the same harm in all the territories it caused. So some of the names we can look into. In Tamil Nadu context, there were different names given to these communities. Devadasi, Devaratya, Teradiyan. These are the names in Tamil Nadu, in which girls from lower caste were dedicated primarily to the major temple centers, including Tirupati and Madurai. Then Karnataka, they were called as Pasavi. In this system, they were dedicated primarily to Renuka, with a main shrine at Saudanti in Belgaum district. When we come to Andhra and Telangana regions, they were called as Venkadesanai and Kalavantula. So these were the different names given to them. There were different traditions in different villages because the goddesses were different. So Kalavantulas were hereditary court performers, predominantly they were. And when we move to Maharashtra region, where they were called as Murali, in that context, they were dedicated to local deities, particularly in northern and southern regions, also a border of Karnataka. And when we come to Odisha, in that Odisha region, they were called as Mahari. They were also, like as we see in Tamil Nadu context, they were dancers attached to the Puri Jagannath temple. Even in Goa, Assam, Kerala, they were called as Bhavani, Kalwantin. Nati, Mahari. So they were regional traditions which were tied to local temple practices. Predominantly, these different regions had the same system with the different names, but with a religious framework. Next slide, please. So, okay, we know now what was the system all about and how it was established in different regions with the different colors and names. But what was the faith response from the Christians of those periods, those decades? So to understand that, we may look into this slide, which has streamlined into 5 forms of Christian engagements. First one, anti-Nazi movement from 1882 onwards. Then the second one was rescue and rehabilitation frameworks or forums, like in Maharashtra by Pandita Ramabai. Then third one, from rescue to legal precedent, especially in Tamil Nadu, from 1901, from the period of M.A. Carmichael. Fourth one was documentation for government. So it had a period from 1882 to 1930. This was the period documentation were happening within the government arena towards legal framework. The fifth one was post-abolition community rehabilitation, in which we need to remember Sita in the year of 1997. From 1997, what she did, we will look into a little bit later. So now I would like to invite all of us to get into a few of these personalities, how they contributed to this, against this movement in order to contribute to the nation building. The first one, she was an Indian Christian scholar, biblical scholar, as well as biblical translator, because we have been reading her works. And she was a social reformer as well from Maharashtra. And she was born into high caste Brahmin family. She was the first Indian woman to earn the title Pandita. And Saraswati from the Calcutta University. And she was the one who founded Sarada Satan, Bombay, 1889. And this was a school and home as well as for the child widows and destitute women, especially many from the Devadasi context. She established Mukti Mission in Maharashtra. Many of us must have visited. This is a very much largest rescue and rehabilitation institution founded by an Indian woman in the 19th century itself. So especially her work in 1896 in Maharashtra, there was a famine, and she started going into different villages with her bullock carts and rescuing thousands of outcast children, child widows, orphans, and destitute women. Especially many of those girls and women were at the risk of becoming part of this Devadasi system. So 1901, this is a year very important for us when we remember Pandita Ramabai. So 2000 residents at Mukti Mission by this year. Many escaped from the system. The next personality is M.A. Carmichael. She was an Irish woman, and she was the one who founded Donaur Fellowship. We all know that. She arrived South India in 1895, and in the year of 1901, she received a 7-year-old Preena, and that girl was inspiration for starting this fellowship, because she escaped from the same kind of systemic violence on her. So that inspiration made her to develop a house or fellowship that later it was called as Donaur Fellowship. It was established 1901 in southern Tamil Nadu, a refuge and rehabilitation community which sheltered over 1,000 children across her 50 years uninterrupted service in India. So she is also one of the main reasons who contributed towards legal part of the later part in the Indian Tamil Nadu context. She had a very documentation spirit. She started documenting, which later became a source for legislators. Particularly 2 of her works, 1903 work, Things as They Are, and then 1909 work, Lotus Buds. These are the works become the resources the later period. So the legacy of Donaur Fellowship continues today, but still there are more inspiration. There was a coalition between these personalities. So there was a time of allies happening between the personalities and between the movements in Indian context against this Devadasi system. These allies promoted, they advocated, and they supported the survivors, and they started developing homes and other rehabilitation centers as well. 4 of them in this coalition we need to underline today. The first one is Thomas Walker and Harriet Walker. Thomas Walker was a church missionary society worker, CMS worker, later become a closest co-worker and theological partner in the founding years of this fellowship, Donauer Fellowship. He and Harriet Walker, they started helping to establish the fellowship, the Donauer Fellowships, theological foundations, and its model of family style community rather than institutional orphanage. I think this is something and it will be a challenging model for all of us. We may develop an institution, but it is not very easy to develop an institution which is very much family style model. So they 3 of them together, they established that. And Thomas Walker died in 1912, even before the fellowship got its full shape as institution. But still, Harriet Walker started continuing her support towards the fellowship. So these are the two personalities along with Amy Carmichael, which we need to remember for ages. And the next one is Lakshmi Reddy. Reddy was born into Brahmin father and mother. She became the first woman medical graduate of Madras University, and she was the first woman deputy chairman of Legislative Assembly anywhere in the world. So she introduced the formal bill on this system in 1930. She also founded Avai Home in Madras to shelter and rehabilitate the Devadasi girls and women. So this was the Avai Home, running parallelly the time of Carmichael Donauer Fellowship. And she was the one who brought the legal aspect to this movement against this system. Okay, then the Sito, she was from Karnataka, and she was also former Devadasi because she was dedicated to Yellama Devadasi system at her age of 7 in Kabur village district, Karnataka. She had 3 children before her age 17. So 1991, she came to contact with Karnataka's Women's Development Corporation. Then in 1997, she founded MASS Mahila Mattu Samarakshana Samsthe, which was an organization run entirely by former Devadasis. So this MASS organization, within 4 or 3 decades, they liberated over 4,000 women from the Devadasi system in Balagavi district alone. So they started bringing the Yellama cults, hold on the area of the effective end, and even they created 300 self-help groups to support financially the former Devadasis. And they started bringing awareness campaigns at the Yellama temple festival grounds itself. So she received in 2018 for her work against the system. And this Padma Shri, which we all know, India's 4th highest civilian honor, which she received. So one of her open statement or testimony, which we need to underline, even the present context is she told, she always telling this phrase, while upper caste women were rarely affected, Dalit women bore the brunt of this cruel practice. This is a statement she has been using against this system. So we cannot forget her role in this moment. The final one is Muvalur Ramamirdam Ammal. She was also former Devadasi. She is from Tamil Nadu. She was a non-Christian ally again. She had that experience as Devadasi. She was the one who published a Tamil novel, Fallen Youngsters in the Web of Devadasi, in 1936. So this was a kind of explaining the system from within. So that helped others also to join the movement against this movement, against the system. She associated with the Periyar self-respect movement. She was also part of that movement. Also, she supported the legislative campaign. So next slide, yes. So not only allies, not only advocates, also the legal part was taken care of these leaders in the past. So from advocacy to law, after 60 years of the first coalition, we got the first act in 1997. Till today, the works continues because the system is not in the same manner, in other views, other manner we are having the system. So the works continues. So just to go through the timelines of this history, 1882, anti-Nazi movement. This was the first organized coalition against education. 1889, Pandit Ramabai founded Sarada Sadan, first rehabilitation institution. 1901, M.A. Carmichael Selters Brina, then fellowships started to begin. 1932, Mukti introduced formal abolition bill in Madras. 1947, Madras Devadasi's Act, first legal abolition act we got in history. 1982 to 83, Karnataka Act and Andhra Pradesh Act also we got law extended nationally. So 1997, Sitawaj founded MASS. So community-led rehabilitation begins, still it continues. So the complexity, as I told in the beginning of the presentation itself, is intersectionality. It has various socio-cultural, political dimensions within the system. So the law did not end the practice. So 2018, Karnataka State Women's University survey documented approximately 80,000 Devadasis still in Karnataka. So research in the 2000s continued to document dedication in parts of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu under different names and different colors. This is not a closed chapter. This continues working. The gap between law and practice still remains. Every child is born with a purpose, and every child deserves a chance to live it. So the fight continues. We are all invited to respond towards this context against the system as our faith response. Thank you.